I also have a great panel here joining me, mostly local government, as well as a private sector representative that's created a lasting public-private partnership. I am going to let the panel introduce themselves as they roll through their next couple of slides, but I wanted to quick give an introduction to the city of Faribault with some slides that we have. Not sure, Todd, if we have those called up. Thank you. The city of Faribault, located 45 minutes south of the Twin Cities Metro. We're a town of about 25,000 people, but industrial is definitely the name of the game. We're not foreign to these large-scale projects and have had the opportunity to work on a number of them, especially in the recent years. I see a close colleague, Greg Kruschke, in the audience with the city of Owatonna. We've worked closely with them to develop a partnership and really kind of bringing some outcomes to the southern Minnesota region right on I-35 there. There are just a couple land opportunities that I'd like to highlight with you guys here today. The first being our Metcon Business Park. If Todd, you want to scroll to the next slide there. The Metcon Business Park is a location of over 150 acres of ready developable land owned by a design build firm that we have in town. We worked with that particular property owner to annex the land when we were working on a 300,000 square foot deal with Daikin Applied. I found it interesting with the last panel talking about those outstate communities coming to fruition with some of these projects because of the end users being those local manufacturing hubs. And that's exactly what this project was. We worked with Daikin Applied with a local manufacturing facility to bring in a 300,000 square foot warehouse, converting it to state-of-the-art manufacturing. While we had the opportunity to annex that land, we worked with the local landowner to annex an additional almost 200 acres that's primed for interstate development. The second land opportunity that I'd like to highlight is our Highway 60 West area. This was originally pre-recession looking for big box retail. It was actually slated for a Home Depot. City brought public infrastructure out to the area, but unfortunately that deal fell through just given the timing. It now has sat vacant for 10 years and we have plenty of land opportunity with public infrastructure brought there. So I'd like to give that just a quick highlight to the city of Faribault, but I'd like to turn it over to our panelists here to give themselves an opportunity to introduce themselves, their community, and the opportunities that they have. And I think we'll go ahead and start with the city of Rosemount. Kim?
Hi, thank you for having me and welcome. I've got slides too.
Yeah, I think we'll just go ahead and roll through those first, Scott. Or Todd, excuse me. It's Friday. You'll answer. Get through it. Started. Right on to the next one there. It's all you.
All right. Okay. So I'm Kim Lindquist. I'm the Community Development Director. And with me today is also Eric Van Oss, our Economic Development Specialist. And some of you may have heard from him. We hired him about a year ago, which shows the commitment our council has to development. And he's been out pounding the pavement, both for industrial, commercial, and residential development. The next slide is a map of, gosh, that is shocking. The next slide is a illustration just of where Rosemount is. It's in the southeast metro. Some of you may not have ventured that far south and east, but we are a growing community located in that Eagan, Lakeville, Apple Valley area. We're about 20 minutes from the airport. We're about 15 minutes from I-35, and we've got State Highway 52 running through our community down to Rochester. So we have good access as well as access to the airport in a quick and an efficient manner. The next slide shows just an aerial from our water tower. We're a population now of 25,000. We are a growing community, actually relatively fast growing. We had 350 new units this year. We tend to be function a little bit more as a bedroom community. And so one of our selling points for future industrial users is we've got a fair amount of commuters out of our community who are looking for jobs here in our the city of Rosemount, and they tend to be fairly well skilled. They have a higher education than some of our area neighbors, and so are ready and available for working for future industrial users. I wanted to highlight just a couple of sites. The next slide, please. Um, the city of Rosemount, you may be aware of for two reasons. One, it is the location of the Flint Hills Refinery off of 52. The other is that the University of Minnesota owns the Umore property, which is 3,000 acres in the central portion of the city. The university has committed to sell that land for development, and there'll be a fair amount of residential, but there's also about 1,000 acres available for industrial land. This site is in partnership with Opus. They have a relationship with the university for the 160. It's within that Umore area. It is immediately next to County Road 42, which is a principal arterial, and about 5 minutes from State Highway 52. It's generally used for light industrial or business park, and infrastructure is planned and available. The next slide shows a site immediately across from the Opus. It's about 300 acres, or can be actually expanded or contracted depending on the user. We've been getting quite a bit of looks for this site, primarily because of the flexibility in the site size. So we are one of those cities when people are looking for large tracts of land. Rosemount has a fair amount of opportunity because the university owns so much land that's really not allocated in any particular platted size. And then finally, the last slide shows the Rosemount Business Park area. This is owned by a family farm, the Pauls, and is part of a shovel-ready program that DEED has set up through the state. All three of these sites are also shovel-ready through Xcel Energy, and they have done quite a bit of planning in terms of the electrical use and the ability to bring in additional services for high users in these particular areas. So with that, I think we're moving on.
I think we have queued up for Elk River next. Colleen, if you'd like to give a little brief overview.
You bet. Thanks, Sam. I'm Colleen Eddy, the Economic Development Specialist with the City of Elk River. Been there for almost 7 years. Why Elk River? We were designated Energy City in 1997, the only designated city in the state of Minnesota. We're easily accessible via 194, Highway 10, 101, and 169. We're located on the North Star commuter rail. There is a transit center in our community. We have our own municipal utility, Elk River Municipal Utility, 99% reliable utility. We have the infrastructure, water, and the sewer and water capacity. Multiple fiber service providers, reliable teamwork with local government. We do basically expedite some development projects in the past. And we do have quite the process that I will discuss later in the program. We pride ourselves on a park and recreation, the quality of life. We have over 41 parks covering 1,100 acres and 35 miles of paved walkways. And we're home to over 50 manufacturing facilities that basically cross-promote each other and work collaboratively together on workforce promotion. Medium income age is 37, so it's a young population, and it's highly educated as well. We're conveniently located between the Twin Cities and St. Cloud, so we are able to pull workforce from both locations. Am I on the properties? One of the shovel-ready certified site is owned by Sherburne County. It's adjacent to 2 data centers. We do have Target United Health data centers. This one was shovel-ready certified through the state of Minnesota, the DEED program. We help promote and market this available property, which is actually adjacent to the government center as well. So it's highly secure piece of property. The Elk River EDA also owns a 12-acre parcel in a industrial park. It is kind of, we've had some opportunities to market and promote this, but there is a gas pipeline that goes through it, not like you can build a parking lot on it. We did a virtual video of this showing that there is a possibility of 100,000 square foot building that could actually be built on this property, and 14, which includes 14 loading docks as well. So It's $2 a square foot, ready to rock and roll. But again, I think the gas pipeline is a little scary, but you can build a parking lot on it and you're good to go. So the next one is there's two 1.5 acre parcels that is owned by the EDA as well. It's located right off of Highway 10, so it's highly visible. It's two 1.5 acres, but it could be sold as a 3 acre parcel as well. Zoned commercial highway, great for business office or health office as well. New development, one of the projects that we just completed is a multi-purpose facility. It was basically built via sales tax. There's 2 sheets of ice, field house, community center, and activity center as well. And that is it for me.
And I think up next we have Brooklyn Park. Breanne?
Thanks. Good morning. I'm Breanne Rothstein, Economic Development and Housing Director for the City of Brooklyn Park. So my first slide just gives a reminder to all of you that Brooklyn Park is the 6th largest city in the state. I think it's kind of quietly so. We have over 80,000 residents and growing. And even more notably, it's up there with Brooklyn Center, it's the most diverse city in the state. So as represented by the different ethnicities and races of people who live there. We also have a very young community, and particularly in the 14 to 24 age range, we have about double the average metro for young people in our community. And so I call 14 to 24 young people. The definition of young people gets older and older every year. It's kind of funny how that works. So we have access to an incredible workforce. And so for industrial development, that is very enticing to a lot of the people who come to our city. They're very interested in hearing about our workforce demographics as well as our workforce development programming that the city runs. So next slide. So this is a map of our available industrial property right now. Brooklyn Park is very well served by transportation with 100 and 169 and 94 and 694 and 610, of course, is the most recent one. And if you've driven between 252 and 94 on 610, you can see for yourself the incredible amount of industrial development. We've been doing 400,000 square feet a year. Right now we have 700,000 square feet of commercial and industrial property in entitlement and or construction planning phase. This just blows my mind, which I guess is in line with the 400,000 square foot a year. If we're going to do that, we have to have about 700,000 in pipeline, but never ceases to amaze me. Curita is the most recent amazing example. They showed up with a building permit for 200,000 square foot, I want to say state headquarters. And so that happens a couple times a year for us, just kind of out of the blue. These large industrial users will be ready to go, or DEED will call us and say, do you have MIF or JCF available? And we say yes, we write a letter, and then it happens. So we are a big participant in the MIF and JCF DEED programs. They're very popular for the businesses who locate in Brooklyn Park. So this is just a little bit of the geographic area of where most of our opportunities are. Skinnell and United Properties and Ryan own the lion's share of this land. And our building spec, our market has not slowed down at all in the last 9 months. I think deals are maybe getting a little slower or a little more reluctant or a little more information, more needed for those things to get done. But when it comes to total square footage and our spec market, it's still extremely strong, which is very surprising to me. But I don't know if it's just lagged and 2021 will change, or if our community is just that desirable that our market remains very strong. Our biggest challenge is not recruiting or attracting or providing incentive packages, but that workforce development piece. Only 10% of our jobs in the city are filled by Brooklyn Park residents. And while that might be regionally, maybe somewhere between 10 and 15 in a dynamic regional economy, I would like to see that a lot higher, particularly because recently the businesses that come into our community express interest in our access to talent. So that's one of our main focuses in our economic development division is workforce development and workforce matching with all the businesses that are happy to call Brooklyn Park home. Next slide. So jobs, we have them. Traditionally, Cindy Sherman always says that Brooklyn Park is a bedroom community. And I think that was true through the 90s largely. And just since the opening of 610 and 169 and some large new industrial parks, that's really changed. So we have a goal to have 50,000 jobs by 2040. I think our projection is 40 and our goal is 50. So I think we'll get closer to 50,000 jobs by 2040. So we're, again, very proud and excited to have that as an opportunity for our residents and the region. This is just a snapshot of some of our new development. We are still strong in the townhome market, and we have a couple new hotels, and new as of a couple years ago. We actually do have one in building permit right now, which again surprises me, building a hotel right now. But I know those things take so long that it's probably just remains from a year ago. And then apartments are just starting to come back as a potential interest of our city council. We built 6,000 apartments in a 10-year time span. And so for a few decades, the council has been pretty reluctant about new apartments, and that's changing. We have some new leadership on our city council, and we're starting to see our rents double in the last 10 years. And so demand is clearly high. And so in addition to all the housing programs we've done with regard to rental rehab and single family rehab, we are looking at some new apartment development in the next year for the first time in several decades, besides Dorn. The Dorn development obviously came in a couple years ago. So that's exciting. And then, oh yeah, how could I forget? I saved the best for last. Blue Line LRT, Bottineau LRT extension. This is obviously transformational for our city. It's 5 station stops in the city of Brooklyn Park. 3 of them are, actually 3.5 of them are redevelopment or infill development opportunities, but the Oak Grove Parkway station is greenfield. A lot of the land is owned by Target, as well as some other land holding companies, but that's a huge opportunity for over the next 10 years to have a station stop on a greenfield site is pretty rare for the metro. And so that's going to continue to be a highly desirable site. They are going to do a realignment evaluation of the Blue Line LRT, but it won't affect Brooklyn Park Station. So all of the planning and effort that we've put into that will be maintained. So I think that's my last slide. Thanks. No, one more. That's okay. Some more highways and interchanges are being built too.
All right, we'll go ahead and flip through the rest of those and transition over to Scott Thompson with Crawford Merz. Scott is the token newbie of this panel, and I think he had alluded to in some of our prep calls that he's happy to serve as kind of this example of a public-private partnership that he's developed with a local community here just north of the metro. But we think it's a really great addition to just provide some context in how public and private partnerships get developed and how that can be beneficial over the course of all of this. So with that, Scott.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us. My name is Scott Thompson with Crawford Merz. Steve Hoyt, I just wanted to compliment you on the nice job that you did moderating before. That comment that you made about cities slowing things down. These 4 all looked at each other and said, we're going to roast Steve when we get up there. So there was, no offense taken by them at all with that comment. But anyways, nice job though on that. I guess, I just wanted to kind of throw out, a little bit about my background. Been in the business for over 32 years. I've enjoyed every bit of it. I just love the industry. Love working with every, individual part of the industry, brokerage to appraisals to, banking, lending. It's been a real pleasure. I think it was Chris shared a little bit about something about him personally. So I'm going to do the same. I grew up in Milan, Minnesota, a real small town in western Minnesota, and graduated in the top 25 in my class. And, that really impresses people until I tell them there's only 23 of us, in our class. But I'm the fourth generation builder in our family. My family had Thompson Builders and Contractors in Milan, and went to college to play football, and ended up, getting a construction management degree, the only thing I thought I probably could do well at, and been working in the Twin Cities market ever since. So live in Lindstrom with my family. I've got 4 boys, and I will put a plug in there for my 2 oldest, Brady Thompson and Bryce Thompson. And I remember I mentioned that I love, working with every, individual in the industry, but my favorite is brokers, And so I've actually steered Brady. He's in the brokerage department with Premier Commercial Properties up there in Coon Rapids. And then Bryce is with Doug Saylor and Mid-America over there in their retail brokerage department over there. And, one of the things that I said, brokers they're fun people, they have great lifestyle, and their office hours are awesome. They start at noon, they're done by 1 with an hour off for lunch every day, And the only reason why I say that is that in the last company that I was with, I got to work in the Shoreview office of their brokerage department. And so I was the only construction guy there. And a lot of times in the office, I was the only guy in the office, because everybody's out doing deals, and I loved that atmosphere, and I really have enjoyed that. So my saying throughout my career is, I'm here to help you do deals. That's what I'm here to do. And so hopefully today with I might share something that might help you do a deal. I'm excited to say that, I have been working with a public-private partnership with North Branch. If you've got a next slide there for the North Branch deal. But I live in Lindstrom, and so Chisago County has been historically, down on commercial tax base. And I've been driving by this interstate business park for years, and nothing's happening, And I know it's a little bit of a green banana maybe, but I think that, it's got a lot to offer. And plus, selfishly, I wanted to lower my residential income taxes or property taxes by getting some more commercial going up there. So I befriended Bob Boyce. He's the broker that's representing the city in selling this land, and asked him if it'd be okay if he ever got any phone calls on somebody that's looking to buy some land in that park, if he would mind introducing me to him. And so that has actually gotten some traction, and I'll share a little bit more about what we do next, in trying to bring new businesses to the city of North Branch. And for that matter, on the north side, I actually office now, got my own office in Coon Rapids, right next to Premier Commercial Properties. So I'm back in with the brokers again up there, and I love that environment. But I'll share a little bit more about, what I can do to help anybody, but especially brokers, do deals, when it comes to bringing businesses to the community. So, Sam?
Great. Thanks, Scott. So I think that's a lot of information. When I do some of these panels, I try and steer away from slides because I think they end up sounding a lot like commercials. But I do want to get into some of the details of how, we work as municipalities. I've had the joy of, working alongside a lot of these colleagues through the Economic Development Association of Minnesota, and just a general knowledge and working knowledge of some of this. Scott shared some personal feedback, and I was happy to hear that Scott was representing the city of North Branch in a public-private partnership, as I actually live in the city of North Branch and commute to Faribault every day for economic development. So I'll take the hat on probably the longest commute, the craziest commute. And I don't know if I'm proud of that, but I love the work that I do, and I love the community and the businesses that I serve. So it's simply easy to do. But with that, I'd like to kind of turn it around and talk about some of our recent projects that we've seen. We know we all tackle industrial development a little bit differently. For Faribault, over the last number of years, we've seen that large scale development. I mentioned 300,000 square feet with Daikin. Faribault Foods did a 1 million square foot expansion, vertically integrated food processing facility. A lot of our growth in industrial development happens organically with our existing businesses. But that's not to say we don't get our typical RFI from the state of Minnesota looking for a new company to relocate. But our kind of bread and butter really lies with that business retention and expansion in our existing workforce. But I want to ask the communities a little bit here on how you guys may tackle industrial development and what maybe some of the nuances in for each of your communities. Understanding Rosemount has plentiful land, Elk River a little bit smaller parcels, and Brooklyn Park the opportunity of having the workforce population and the overall population in proximity to the metro. So with that, I'll kind of turn it over and let you guys take a stab at some of that.
I can go first, I guess. In Rosemount, I think we try to differentiate ourselves. You know, we're competing often with Lakeville, a little bit with Egan, and then some of the other suburbs that just have more land, Cottage Grove, Lino Lakes. And so we try to promote really that we are ready. We have our utilities in place. We have the shovel ready program, and we have a process where we can administratively approve projects. So our kind of our shtick is that we can get you done and get it done quickly. And so you know, everybody's kind of has to have something that sets them apart, and that is primarily from a government perspective, what we try to do. I know that often our land is a bit lower in price than like a Lakeville. And so we're trying to compensate for not being on the I-35 corridor by trying to have some other attributes that maybe that direct access to an interstate isn't as necessary, or for us, because we're on 52 if you're going to Rochester. So, you know, we were discussing when we were getting ready for this program, you know, each city has a little bit of something that they can try to really hone in on to differentiate themselves. And that's really what I think Rosemount is trying to do.
I'll just speak to what I hear when people come talk to us or put out RFIs. And this is probably no surprise to anybody in the room, but the proximity of the location of where the CEO lives is a real thing. I've seen heat maps in my office of where the CEO lives, and maybe all the other employees too. And so that's one thing that sets us apart, is the 15 or 20-minute commute shed heat maps that site selectors are legitimately using when looking for sites is a huge factor. You can get pretty much the majority of the metro in just because of the access to highways. The other big thing I would say is biomed is a really, the medical alley, which is generally 169, 694, 610, and now has become 610, sort of that swath of the Northwest Metro, is a huge biomed and biotech magnet. And so there are businesses that like to locate near other businesses that are doing similar or synergistic work. And so that is, and because of COVID, I think that has actually, that industry, we are members of the Medical Alley Association. And so best quarter ever, $1 billion, you know, and it just seems so odd because the economy is struggling in other ways. And so, so that industry is doing very well. And so I think that's part of the draw too. So that access to transportation and commute shed, as well as biomed and the interest from that industry.
So for Elk River, I mean, I echo Breanne as far as the CEOs. We had one company that moved into Elk River because they were halfway to Lake Country. So those CEOs basically have cabins up north. So we're halfway to Lake Country, which was a selling point for one of the businesses that moved in. One parcel that just sold was EDA owned property. It was just over 4 acres, so a smaller lot. But we basically, because it was EDA owned, we were able to expedite the process in that sense. And I guess the key differential for Elk River is we do have a site plan review committee. So when developers come to City Hall, they're going to meet with all of the key players. Planning is represented, municipal utilities is represented, fire, police, parks. So basically, they're able to talk to all of the team that will be working on this project at one time. So we have all the key players at the table. So addressing any concerns or questions that they might have from the get-go. It's very much a team atmosphere, and I'm sure that's, other communities can say the same thing, but I think this is my first city that I've worked for, so I think we do that very well. We are very much a team in that sense. So we have all the key players and are able to address any concerns from the get-go, from every aspect that you would have concerns about. So,
And I think that's really crucial. I think you can talk to most cities and they're going to say, we'll streamline the process and we'll get you through the development phase. And unfortunately, local government doesn't have control over the MPCA and some of those environmental steps. But, shifting to a shovel-ready focus or having some of that phase one environmental done can really help heighten a project and really bring that to the forefront and getting that through the development process a little bit quicker. But as far as a representative like myself with the city of Faribault and some of the other up here on the panel is those outstate communities or maybe fringe-based communities, those smaller communities are often a lot quicker to work with. And the fact that we also have a development review committee that can move these projects through quickly can again streamline the process and get you through. But what you're going to find is, every city is going to often tout that every city is going to have the same access to incentives. So it all comes down to those few nuances of why a project lands where it may. And it often comes down to transportation, lake country, who knew? But I think it's always interesting working through each of these projects and where they decide to land. Scott, I would like to kind of switch focus here a little bit and talk a little bit about the public-private partnership that you've been able to develop with the city of North Branch and how they can leverage that to see the type of development that the community is wanting to come to fruition out in that interstate development park.
Okay. So I guess, the neat thing about my example and story is that, I've got a master plan, so to speak, and it's starting to actually happen and come together. And so when I asked Bob Boyce, who's typically calling you interested in the land? And he said, well, typically it's the owner of the company. And so it's smaller. My average project is probably 25,000 to 40,000 square feet. So it's owner occupied type projects. And so I said, well, if you would be okay with it, ask them if they have a relationship with a builder. And if they don't, if you could have, let them know that I'd like to call them and talk to them. And he said, sure, I can do that. So I've done that now with 3 or 4 different businesses. And it's exactly the case is that generally the owner of the company calls and they're so busy. For instance, one of the guys that I'm working with, he was unloading a truck, and couldn't take a phone call because he was physically unloading the truck, And so what my service is I want to become their right-hand man in figuring out, can they make sense of owning their own building in that park? And they don't have a big real estate staff. It's just generally them. They're the entrepreneur. And if I can earn their trust and confidence with doing some things up front for them, it has been very well received. And so I'm going to put a pitch in there for all my general contractor friends in the audience today. I saw a lot of trucks out there and I recognize some faces out there, is that I'm a big proponent of the design build program. And so I explain that right up front. And if you bring me on right away in the beginning, we'll meet for a cup of coffee. I'll learn about your business, ask some questions about, what are you trying to achieve? How big of a building? Is it 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 square feet? What are you going to do in there? How much office do you need? How much warehouse do you need? How much light production do you need? What do you, logistically, what kind of trucks do you have come into your facility? How frequent are they? And then ask them all these questions. And then I'll run back to my office and then I'll, pencil up, okay, the site work is going to be about this much and the building shell should be about this much and the office build out is about this and the light production is this and then the warehouse is this. If you add it all up, divide it by the square footage, and it's roughly whatever that square foot number turns out to be, and I get back to them, and then they meet with their bank, and then they figure out, okay, it's that old saying about why rent when I can own, kind of a thing. And so they need to figure out it's probably going to be more expensive for them to own on a monthly basis for their overhead, but is the delta close enough where they can make sense of it? And so, so very quickly and for free, it says free estimates right on the side of my vehicle, is that they can figure out, can they justify pursuing it any further? And a lot of times they can, and so at that point, again, they don't have, a lot of them don't even have brokerage representation. They just work with the city's broker that's, going to represent both sides of the deal. And so I stick with them then and say, okay, well, if it makes sense to you, let's take it one step further and let me bring an architect on and, it'll cost you a couple $1,000, but, because architects don't do anything for free, right, Jeff? Is that sometimes they do if you're really nice to them. But we'll do up a site plan, a building elevation, and a floor plan, and then I'll type up some specs to it or write some notes on it. Have some of my valued subcontractor partnerships and relationships help me put some real numbers to this project, and then come back to them with a formal design build proposal that, again, if it continues to make sense for them financially, that we can then, use as an attachment to a design build contract and you're in. You've earned your spot on the team. That's what I say all the time, is that I want to earn my spot on your team. And so, I've got signed up about $4 million worth of work within the last 2 weeks, in design build opportunities. These aren't, it's fun to come to these events because I'm the little fish in the big pond here. These guys are talking about 750,000 square foot deals, and I'm pumped about a 25,000, 30,000 square foot deal. But I am, because I get to work with that business owner. In the last 10 years of my career here or so, I really do enjoy, helping that entrepreneurial business owner get into his own building. And I really enjoy that. And so that's kind of the value added service. It even comes down to the helping these guys. I'm building a project over in Woodbury. It's actually a grocery deli that one of my competitors here in the room that was trying to get also, but he couldn't get financing. And I said, well, let me help you, and so I introduced him to another banker that, helped him with an SBA loan and got him financed, and away we go, So, it's that, I always try to do a little bit extra, to try to help that business owner succeed. And again, they're not, $50 million deals, but, I have a lot of satisfaction in doing these smaller buildings. And a lot of times in these parks, in these outstate parks, it is that owner-occupied type building that, it gets drawn to those. So,
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
When I worked in Ramsey, that was what we saw.
Mhm.
It was so cool. I worked with Sean Sullivan there before he went to ISENI and then when he came back, but I was the planner telling him all the things he couldn't do at that time. But
The no people.
it was so fun to work with these entrepreneurs who didn't know anything about land development, but they knew they wanted to build a building and there was land available from the city to do that. And so it was it was the ultimate incubator, that industrial park that's just east of Ramsey Boulevard there.
Yep.
On Highway 10. It's the ultimate incubator because it's just these people and they're totally clueless. And so having even just a little help would be great. And it was fun to help them through the process too. And really to see them grow. Now it's been 15 years and these businesses are growing and expanding and moving out of the park into bigger spaces. So it is a really fun thing to watch, particularly in those third ring areas.
So I got to tell one quick story about that because it relates back to one of Steve's comments on dealing with business owners and entrepreneurs. So I got a $2.5 million contract, design build agreements, handed it to my client. And I said, okay, you know what, look it over, if you need anybody to review it or whatever, take your time, get it back to me. And he, flips through it, signs it, gives it back to me. And I said, geez, I said, don't you even want to have somebody look at it? And he goes, heck no. He goes, if I got to refer to this document, if we got a problem, I hired the wrong guy, and it would talk about refreshing, and now I don't know if that was necessarily a great business decision on his part, but, the project went off well. We never had any problems. He's just a great guy. We still talk. We built a relationship with him and he trusted me, so you can get with the smaller businesses, you can get deals done quickly if you're dealing with the right guy. But that was a fun story.
Yeah, and I think for these smaller outstate communities, how important it is to have these partnerships at the table to be able to, help them through the process. And, given the current times and with COVID and everything and how this is affecting our small businesses, it's been really interesting to work with some of these folks that are the CEO, the CFO, the HR director, and everything in between. And so it's really crucial to have those partners at the table that can bring those businesses to the next level. Speaking of partnerships, I think we can all attest to the fact that we don't do this alone. And one of our strongest partners in Faribault are our utilities. And working with Great River Energy, Xcel Energy through their site certification programs, bringing them to the table early and often to ensure that these new developments are being built with the most efficiencies possible. And the best time to do that is from the start. And so we really are proud to say that we don't do this alone. We bring our partnerships to the table and we make sure that we can make this a viable project for the client and the city. And so I want to take an opportunity for some of the cities to also highlight how they've fostered those partnerships and been able to work with likely a lot of their utilities as well, but to work through that certification process and ultimately the marketing of some of that. I know, Kim, you work directly with that in Rosemount, if you want us to talk to that a little bit.
Yeah, we also have a great partner with Xcel Energy, and their site certification program really gets to some of the issues that were discussed about the timing for approval. They have gone above and beyond, and thankfully it's all on their dime to promote these sites. And so the amount of information that they're pulling together and did pull together for our site certified sites is really the best tool that the city has to help promote these particular locations. And so we have the ability to use their resources, but also their connections. And so often we're limited a bit on our marketing campaigns, and Xcel is really out there in a much more larger national and regional stage. And so they've got those connections. And so we really have a very strong partnership with Xcel on our industrial sites because of the mutually beneficial opportunities that can exist. As I mentioned, we also have a deed shovel ready program site, and that just frankly has not risen to the same level as the Xcel certification in terms of the rigor associated with the information in the site certification, and also how current the information is. So Xcel has really made a commitment to have current information that is the most useful for the future users. And so I would strongly recommend people take a look at their sites, because I think you're going to find some good information for your future clients.
Any other partnerships worth noting? I know workforce always tends to be a really big topic when we're talking specifically about industrial projects. Usually they're going to be a high job count. I know Breanne had mentioned the fact that the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development, DEED, has various different programs. A lot of those are using job creation as a metric for how you qualify for those programs, or how an individual project qualifies for those programs. We work a lot in acronyms. So MIF and JCF, Minnesota Investment Fund, and the Job Creation Fund are both two large initiatives that get dollars pumped into them at the legislature every year, or we hope every year, to support these large scale projects. Now, something that we've heard in Faribault with working with our existing industry is, okay, how are we going to bring a new 80, 100, 150,000 square foot warehousing and distribution facility into the community with, 50, 75, 100 jobs when we can't even support our local industries and the jobs and business that they need. And so it's really that finite balance between that business attraction and the business retention. And so for us, our workforce partnerships are also very important, and working with both DEED and our local South Central College and some of the training initiatives that they have to heighten our workforce. So that's another partnership. And I don't know, Breanne, if you want to touch on some of that workforce too.
Absolutely. Thanks. Brooklyn Park has North Hennepin Community College and Hennepin Tech College in our city. So we have great partnerships with those institutions for job training, job skills. Minnesota Job Skills Partnership is another opportunity. And certainly MIF and JCF. I think it's so interesting. We take very good advantage of those programs, but I think they are somewhat outdated because with the focus on adding jobs, we are now in a workforce crisis. And so that's a good problem to have. But if we could pivot our focus to workforce development, I think that would serve the state well. And they have too. And I see that increasingly. The city of Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center partnered to create our own workforce development program. And it's called Brooklink, and it connects youth in Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center with jobs, professional internships with the organizations and businesses in Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center. We do have some partners that are just outside of our city, but for our young people, transportation is a major factor. So it has to be within a pretty close proximity. And those are public employers, cities, and school districts, but they're also businesses, manufacturing, banking, and it's an amazing program. It graduates 130 interns every summer. Out of that program during COVID, we pivoted majorly and did a professional development series. But that, when I go attend the graduation and I look out and all these interns are standing on the stage. They're the future. They're the most incredibly resilient, passionate, excited young people. It really gives me hope, both for our workforce, but also for our racial reconciliation. These are almost all youth of color. And so to see a large, I would say, undertapped or untapped labor market, and to know that we can connect through this program those youth with those jobs in the community. It's really exciting. And we just started the program 5 years ago, and we have 30 interns that have been employed now that they've graduated from high school, graduated from college, employed in our employer partners. So we're finally starting to see the fruits of our labor. And that includes Brooklyn Park as an employer. We have 500 employees at the city, in police and fire and parks and economic development. And so we have started hiring from that program too. And so that is one of the most proud accomplishments we have, is to move the needle. One of our biggest challenges in the city is our huge wage gap between white people and people of color. And so if we can connect good paying jobs with our community, we're going to all succeed and improve the economics of our community. And so it's really economic development 2.0.
And it's essential to have those pipeline programs when you're talking about site selection and new industry coming to your community. They're going to want to know what initiatives you have in place to really grow that talent pool and know that the jobs are there. Colleen had mentioned the fact that they fall halfway between St. Cloud and the Metro, and the ability to tap into both of those labor sheds for their workforce population. Colleen, do you want to talk a little bit more about how that kind of affords you the opportunity to grow in just the number of jobs and the proximity that you have to each of those communities?
Sure. We employ a lot of manufacturing industry businesses. So again, our focus is really on the manufacturing base. So what our school district did was they put together a business task force along with those. Really? I got it like mouthfuls. All right. Get close to the mic. Okay. So anyways, we do have a high manufacturing industry in Elk River. So we worked with the school district who put together a business task force. So the key players in the manufacturing industry were part of these conversations. And what was built from those conversations was a career and technical person. So the school district took all this information and created a position for a career and tech position. And so we basically work with her along with the manufacturers, and she attends our BR&E visits. So she listens to the companies and is able to help them find workforce within the school district. So the school district and the EDA actually supported this, the Youth Skills Partnership. So it employs 16-year-olds in manufacturing companies. So usually manufacturers can employ people under the age of 18 to be out on the floor, but the Youth Skills Partnership is able to provide these types of services. So it's basically getting the students in the manufacturing industry before they kind of decide on a career. Basically, the manufacturing businesses from years ago is not what you see in today's world. So it's basically giving them an opportunity to get to know the manufacturing industry. And so that's kind of where Elk River's focus is really on the manufacturing base, because we do have over 50 businesses that employ that workforce. So we are able to pull a lot of the workforce from St. Cloud comes down to Elk River because they don't want to travel into the cities. The salary for our manufacturing positions are, you can start at $65,000 a year. That's a livable wage in the Elk River, St. Cloud community and so forth. So that's our partnership. We have built a partnership with the school district, and I think that's working out very well. A lot of our manufacturers partner with Anoka Ramsey Technical College as well on pipeline trainings and job skills partnerships programs as well at the Anoka Technical College.
Great, thanks for that. So we are running here on our time. I wanted to give an opportunity for any questions, but I'm just going to recommend that you maybe look to find folks afterwards if you have any questions on some of the opportunities. I think we've had a great opportunity to highlight a lot of the development that can occur in each of these communities, and we really hope that as projects come to fruition, you really think about each of these and how we can best partner. And if you have ideas on how to, further help the development process, I think each of us are looking to really work with you and make sure that it's viable for everyone. So with that, thank you so much.